This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. We begin overseas as tensions between the United States and Iran continue to boil. Religious freedom advocates are using the crisis to shine a spotlight on Iran's abysmal human rights record. Persecution of Iran's Christians took center stage in Washington recently. This as other Middle East nations are joining the U.S. to put pressure on the Islamic regime. As America struggles to convince traditional allies in Europe to put more pressure on Iran, the White House is turning to the Middle East to create a strong anti-Iranian axis that President Trump hopes will stop Tehran's growing influence in the region. Heading the alliance is Saudi Arabia, which in an unprecedented show of unity brought top officials of the Arab League and Organization of Islamic Cooperation countries to Jeddah recently to rally support against rival Iran. Some Arab and U.S. officials blame Iran for the sabotage of 4 oil tankers off the coast of the United Arab Emirates in May. Saudi foreign minister telling Muslims gathered that it's time to confront Iran.
We assure you that we will make more efforts to counter the terrorist acts of the extremists and terrorist groups which recently, at the beginning of this holy month, targeted trade vessels in the territorial waters of the UAE.
As they met over the skies of the Persian Gulf, the U.S. military continued to hold drills with regional partners amid escalating tensions between Washington and Tehran. The U.S. dispatched an aircraft carrier, B-52s, and additional troops to the region to deter threats from Iran. In Tehran, a defiant supreme leader ruled out any negotiations with the United States and had this warning.
Let me put it this way, as it's more clear. We will not negotiate on matters that are related to the revolution's honor. We won't negotiate on our military capabilities with anyone.
Meanwhile, in Washington,
Christians in Iran are routinely arrested because of their faith. There are police raids on house churches and religious gatherings.
Senator Ted Cruz, along with human rights experts and religious freedom advocates, met recently to hear about Iran's escalating war against Christians and other religious minorities. Victims of Christian persecution in Iran also addressed the gathering, sharing first-hand accounts of life in the Islamic Republic.
We spent 259 days in Tehran's notorious Evin prison, where we learned why Iran is classified as among the countries where followers of Christ face the most extreme persecution.
Among those invited to speak were Ambassador Sam Brownback and Dr. Mike Ansari, head of one of the largest satellite channels broadcasting Christian programs into Iran. Ansari said his channel routinely gets calls from inside the country detailing atrocities against religious minorities.
There are people like Ahmad, age 35, calling from Tehran, who says his house was raided and he was beaten and arrested for becoming a Christian.
According to Open Doors, the Islamic Republic is listed as number 9 among the world's top persecutors of Christians. Believers are forbidden from sharing their faith with non-Christians. This spring, authorities allegedly stormed a 100-year-old Assyrian Presbyterian church in the northeast city of Tabriz, removed the cross from its steeple, and shut it down.
Over the past couple of years, we've witnessed numerous examples of the Iranian government's disregard for religious freedom and other fundamental human rights.
The International Christian Concerns Jeff King says the Trump administration can fight Iran's persecution by using the Magnitsky Act against Iranian officials. The act allows the U.S. government to sanction individuals complicit in human rights abuses anywhere in the world.
And we've submitted 3 cases, 3 Iranian judges we've submitted to the Treasury Department to be targeted under the Magnitsky Act. And if they're accepted, numerous financial and other penalties will kick in against these judges.
Despite intense persecution, those gathered here are encouraged, knowing that record numbers of Iranians are embracing Jesus Christ like never before. Today, Christianity is growing faster in Iran than in any other country in the world. President Trump is threatening to impose steep tariffs on goods coming into the United States from Mexico. The president says a 5% increase will be placed on Mexican products starting June 10th, and they will be increased by 5% each month until they reach 25% at the start of October. Mr. Trump's goal is to get Mexico to do more to crack down on illegal immigration and drug smuggling into the United States. The announcement caught Congress by surprise. Some members of the Republican Party say President Trump is overstepping his authority with the Mexican tariff increases. However, Vice President Mike Pence is defending his boss's action.
The president's absolutely determined to use the authorities that he has as president to call on the Congress and to call on Mexico to do more to address this humanitarian crisis at our southern border.
Chief International Correspondent Gary Lane is following this story and joins with me with more. So Wall Street obviously isn't reacting very well about this, and neither are some members of the president's own party. So what are they saying?
Well, the Dow is down at least 200 points today. Most of the day it was down about 250 points. They don't like it. Wall Street doesn't like it when the markets become unstable, when there's uncertainty in the markets. And then as far as the politicians on Capitol Hill, Senator Charles Grassley said that he felt the president was overstepping his authority on tariffs. And members of Congress, George, they want to get in on this. They were surprised by it. They feel they're the ones who have the authority under the Constitution to tax other countries and domestically.
So all this time we've been talking about the southern border, we've been talking about building the wall. So suddenly we slap Mexico with these tariffs. Why now?
Well, I think the president is frustrated right now because he had a federal judge rule against him about a week ago when it came to border wall funding, emergency funding using Defense Department funds. And then in addition to that, the private funding of a wall was, there's a cease and desist order in Sunland, Texas, that the city issued against private construction of a wall. So, George, I think he's frustrated. Congress isn't doing anything about immigration. He's going to step in and try to put the pressure on Mexico.
Okay, so what products are we talking about here specifically?
Well, a lot of automobiles. That's the #1 product that we get from Mexico, automobiles, automobile parts, machinery. Also, George, fruits, vegetables. We get a lot from Mexico there as well.
I'm curious, you know, you've been on this show talking about the tariffs and the trade war with China. How do the Mexico tariffs differ from what the president has imposed on China?
Well, China, I think that's been going on for a long time with China. And the concern about China, of course, is the theft of intellectual property, also the high tariffs that China imposes on U.S. goods and products and so forth, and dumping cheap goods on our market. But with Mexico, it has to do with politics. This is more about immigration, Mexico not doing enough to stop people from crossing our border. We have as many as 4,000 a day coming across.
What's next, do you think?
Well, the Mexican president, Lopez Obrador, basically sent a letter today to President Trump. He rebuked the president, basically very angrily, saying, look, overnight, the president of the United States has made the U.S. an anti-immigrant country. So words like that aren't good if you're trying to negotiate. But he's also going to send some negotiators to Washington to work out a deal. With President Trump, they'll probably reach a deal.
Okay, terrific. Gary, as always, sir, thank you so much for coming on the show. By the way, we will have more on this story and others on Faith Nation this evening. As always, you can watch it right here on the CBN News channel. One other item from overseas, North Korea. They've reportedly executed a senior envoy who was involved in nuclear talks with the United States. A South Korean newspaper reported the envoy and 4 other officials were shot and killed last March by firing squad. The paper said it was part of a purge after the failed summit between Kim Jong-un and President Trump. North Korea has not commented on the report. The South Korean media and government have occasionally reported stories on the Kim regime that turned out to be wrong. President Trump's senior advisor, Jared Kushner, and U.S. Special Envoy Jason Greenblatt met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss Trump's deal of the century for peace in the Middle East. The meeting came just hours after Netanyahu suffered a major political defeat when he couldn't form a coalition government. Yet he vowed the peace plan will go on.
I have to say that I'm tremendously encouraged by everything that I hear about how the United States under President Trump is working to bring allies together in this region against common challenges, but also to seize common opportunities. And even though we had a little event last night, that's not going to stop us. We're going to continue working together.
This was my first time in Israel since the president recognized the Golan Heights, which was a very important announcement. The security of Israel is something that's critical to the relationship between America and Israel, and also very important to the president in his heart.
Kushner and Greenblatt said despite the political climate in Israel, the economic conference scheduled for next month in Bahrain will go on. Economic developments, as you know, play a key role in Trump's peace plan. Coming up, a look back at a historic moment this year at the Kentucky Derby as the horse racing world prepares for the Belmont Stakes next weekend.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. With the final leg of the Triple Crown just 1 week away, we're taking a look at an unusual moment during the Kentucky Derby earlier this month. For the first time in its 145-year history, the winner of the famous Kentucky Derby horse race was disqualified. The horse that appeared to be the clear winner was named Maximum Security. But after closer examination by the judges, it was found to have veered off his lane, cutting off other horses and causing a potentially dangerous situation. So the second place winner, named Country House, was declared the winner of the Kentucky Derby. Some believe God was speaking through this unforgettable horse race. Author and speaker Johnny Enlow is one of them and recently spoke with my colleague Wendy Griffith.
The first time, Johnny, in 145 years a horse is disqualified, that's significant in itself, isn't it?
Well, I think it's very significant. And these horse races, actually, for a few years, the Lord has been showing me, speaking into them. So I pay attention, particularly the Triple Crown races. But yeah, a disqualification by the winner, unprecedented for that to take place.
And the horse's name, Maximum Security, that's a prison term. You believe God has a bigger message here. What do you think it is?
Well, you know, maximum security, as you said, is a prison term. And as you look into the definition of it, it's particularly has to do with, controlling all aspects, extra cameras, extra everything. And I really felt like it spoke into kind of the deep state component of what's taking place and being exposed in our nation. And it's time for that to be eliminated.
The odds were 65-1 that Country House would be the winner. What's the prophetic significance of this horse being the winner.
I think it speaks into both our country and our house. You know, if you look up the definition of house, it's, where a family lives. And so there's a macro-micro application of what's being affected at this time. And God understands that we need help on both of them. The macro would be the country matter. And again, the 7 mountains, the top of the 7 mountains, the maximum security, the resistance to allow the sons and daughters of the King to arise and shine where they're supposed to. And then we're in a time where there seems to have been, a high level of, whether it's unprecedented or not, could be debated, but family breakdown, family troubles. And there is, the maximum security bondage is being broken off, disqualified by an official ruling by the judges, we'll say, or the judge, and allowing country and house to prosper. So I think is a great word there.
And you also say that the numbers are very important in this race as well. It was the 145th Derby, the odds 65 to 1, and Country House's number was 20. What is the significance behind the numbers in this race?
Well, they're very, very significant in this race. You have to realize Psalms are great. There's 150 Psalms, and they're awesome. But these are very unique Psalms that have been highlighted with this one. Psalm 145, Psalm 65, and Psalm 20, all things related and associated with this Kentucky Derby, and then specifically with Country House. And so these are ones that speak of God ruling and reigning in the kingdom of God, advancing, of him being the promise keeper, of he being the one that, is a God of justice, and he's bringing justice. Sometimes that it doesn't come out as clear in the English version because it'll say righteousness. And we think that means, good behavior or something, but it comes out. I speak Spanish as well. And so in all those translations, the word is justicia, which starts with a J, justice, and it's really speaking into that.
Well, you believe the overall message from this year's Kentucky Derby race is that we're in a season of winning. How so?
It looks, because of the opposition, because the enemy is stirred up in a major way. There's no doubt about that. And sometimes we can get distracted by how the enemy's stirred up, how the weather's stirred up. But it really is a time for victories for us. It's the era of the kingdom of God. This is kingdom showtime on planet Earth. And so this is what we need to position ourselves for and not be distracted, by the size of the enemy, not be distracted by the gifted observations of the 10 spies that still exist even in the body of Christ right now.
All right. Well, this is so fascinating. So grateful that you had this revelation and that you shared it with us. Johnny Enlow, author of The 7 Mountain Prophecy and many other books as well. Thanks so much for your insights.
It is a privilege.
Very, very insightful indeed. Well, folks, coming up next, we'll take a look at what's trending on faithwire.com. That in a moment.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. Miracles in wake of the Oklahoma tornadoes and memorial services for homeless vets. Here to bring us this week's trending stories from FaithWire, CBN's Jessica Chaco and Dan Andros.
Saturday, a massive EF3 tornado ripped through El Reno, Oklahoma, killing 2 and injuring many more. That was just before a second twister touched down, leveling a suburb outside of Tulsa. Well, despite the tragedy, stories of faith and miracles are emerging. Here to tell us more, managing editor of FaithWire, Dan Andros. Dan?
Yeah, it was a crazy weekend of storms, and actually up here in the Northeast where I'm at, we also had tornado warnings and had shelter-in-place warnings. Fortunately, it's not too common around here, and we didn't get any in my local area, but you could kind of feel the danger that a tornado presents. It's a very frightening storm, and a lot of people around the country were unfortunately, got the worst of those storms. And we have seen some pretty inspiring and crazy stories in the middle of that, including one family whose whole entire place was ripped to shreds, but their Bibles stayed together, which they viewed as a sign from God. And then you had the story of Gaynell Black, who was in her trailer home at the time of the storm, and all of a sudden it started shaking violently left and right. And she says that all of a sudden, within an instant, they were all just in the air, spinning around. And then in a moment's notice, it just stopped, and everything fell, and they came crashing to the ground, and the whole thing just smashed to bits. She calls it a miracle from God that her family was protected. She was able to crawl through the rubble and rescue her 2 kids. But in the middle of all that, as she was getting her kids to safety, 2 of her neighbors' kids came running over and were crying and asking for their parents. But unfortunately, both of those parents perished in the storm. So prayers for those kids. And there is a GoFundMe set up, which is in the link on the FaithWire article. But as she said, that you are really forced to trust God in those situations.
Thanks, Dan. We'll continue to pray for those families. Well, a Catholic high school in Massachusetts is gaining national attention for their unusual charity work. Each year, Catholic Memorial High School students have to complete 15,000 hours of service collectively. Their mission? Arranging the funerals for homeless veterans. Dan, tell us more about what these students are doing. This incredible story.
Yeah, this is incredible, and it's great that they have those service hours, but as the principal says, that they're not, none of them look at it as a burden to do this particular service, which is they came up with a great idea that service, fallen veterans who don't have families, particularly homeless ones, when they arrive at a funeral home and there's no family there to make any arrangements, they step in and they take over and give them a full service, a full memorial, and they welcome them into their family. And in our article on FaithWire, there was a serviceman by the name of Timothy Fowle who was homeless and had no family or friends at the time of his death. And they go through the whole example of how they treat this man with the respect that he deserves, and they welcome them into their family as they send him off, rightfully so. With a beautiful service. And so it's a great thing that these guys are doing, and this is the kind of thing that that we love to show and that we need to see more of.
Well, thanks, Dan. To find these stories and more, visit FaithWire on Facebook and on the web at faithwire.com.
Thank you, Jessica. Coming up, Steve Harvey is literally brought to tears by one woman's powerful appearance on his show.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there. providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Protect your sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
You're watching the CBN News channel. Comedian and talk show host Steve Harvey was brought to tears and left almost speechless by a guest on his show recently as part of his Put Me On Steve segment. It happened when gospel singer Duranice Pace sang over him. The video has gone viral with more than 10 million Facebook views as Pace and Harvey tell stories of their faith. Take a look.
So good to me, yeah. You real, dog. Woo. I didn't know if I was gonna be alive, but God done kept me alive to see you, sir. Woo.
I was raised where she in heaven now, you know.
Yes, she is.
And she watches me.
Yes, sir.
She sees.
Yes, sir.
I just hope she's seeing today.
Yes, sir.
Watching this moment right here.
Yes, sir.
Only reason I straighten up, start doing right, because I just want to see her.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You gonna see her. You gonna see her.
Other than that, I still be going to hell like I was. You
know? The power of God's grace. Well, you can see the full video and story at cbnnews.com. Well, that is it for this edition of NewsWatch. You can find more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. You can also watch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News channel. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here. Please email us at newswatch@cbn.com, or you can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Folks, that's it for this week, and have a fantastic week. Bye.